Hi, I'm Tom, and I'd like to talk to you about constructing a box. In particular, an open box that can be used for storing parts, and these could range from very large boxes, such as crates that are used in industrial settings, to very small boxes that might be used to hold small electronic parts or pharmaceuticals. There's two basic ways we're going to approach this. There are probably more, but we're going to focus on two basic techniques. One starts with making a solid object and then exploding it into the relevant surfaces. And the other starts with constructing surfaces and building our box up. So I'm going to start with the solids, and I actually have AutoCAD for Mac here opened. And I have a 3D ISO template. So I'm going to start out here coming up to the modeling palette and selecting the solid primitive. And this will start out by constructing the pattern in the XY plane. The size here really doesn't matter, so I'm just going to work in arbitrary units, and I'll just construct the side, and then I'll just pull this up along the z-axis until I get the desired size. And if I don't like that size, I can edit it very easily just simply by clicking on the box and grabbing one of these handles here along the side and pulling it in or out to change the width or the dimension along the x-axis, or I could come over here and change the dimension along the x or the y-axis or the z-axis, depending on what I want to do. And when I finally get it where I want it, then I can just come back and I'm going to hit escape here so let me see what it looks like. But when I get it the size I want, then next thing to do will be to change it from a solid object to an open box or bin. And I'm going to do that using the explode command. Explode. And you'll see when I click on this now, oops, I got to select the objects. And now when I come back and click on these surfaces, you can see that they're all separated. So let me hit escape here and just select the one on top and type E for erase. And now I've got an open box. But it's composed of 5 separate objects, and I would advise you to select them all and make sure and make them a group so you don't accidentally take your box apart. Okay. And there you have it. Now, one thing is that you'll find now if you come back and try to change the shape of it, you can't change them individually. You actually have to come up here. If you come up here and use this gizmo in the center, it'll change the shape, the size of the whole box. If you want to change them along individual dimensions, you can actually make this a block and specify the ability to change things on X, Y, Z axes or use the block editor. Okay. So let's delete that, and let's look at a second way to make this. And again, this time we're going to start making individual surfaces. And the first thing to do is construct the outline of the box in the XY plane. And I can do this using the rectangle tool, or I can use a polyline tool if I want to make an irregular shaped box. But just in the interest of simplicity here, I'm going to make this a rectangle. Let's type rectangle. And specify the first corner, and again the size really doesn't matter here. We can make it big or small depending upon what our needs are. And there I've got an outline of the box. So the next thing I do is create my sides, and I'll do that using the extrude command. I'm going to type extrude, and since I just want to make, and actually I should probably point out while I'm doing this, is that if I use the default, which is solid, I'll make a box, a solid box like we just saw in the previous example, and then I could change the shape and I could use explode to take it apart. But in this case I'm going to do it just slightly different. I'm going to use extrude, but I'm going to go mode, change the mode to surface. And now when I do the extrude, I have to spell this correctly, you'll see that it just makes the sides of the box. Pull up like that. And now I end up with an open box. Now again, I can grab the object and click on the edges and pull them in and out to change the width or the depth or the height of the box as I so desire. Keep in mind here, though, that you do have two objects here. Let me deselect that for a second so you can see this more clearly. You actually have the rectangle that we use to create the sides, or extrude to make the sides, and we also have the sides of the box. So if you want to change the width or the length of the box, you want to make sure both of these are selected so that they change the same ratio. Otherwise, you'll end up with a hole in the bottom of your box. So if I grab this, you can see I can, oops, zoom in on that a little bit. It's a little hard to see this, and I can pull this out like this. And oh, this brings up another good example. You notice that you got to be really careful to move this along just the X or Y's plane if you want to keep your box. If you want to have right angles in all the corners or edges of your box. So what you might want to do is turn on the ortho mode, and do that by using function F8, and that will now constrain it to move just along the orthogonal X, Y, Z axes, so that you don't have to worry about getting an irregular shaped box. Okay, so the final thing to do now is to make a bottom, and we've got that rectangle there, so let's use that, and we'll go convert to surface, and I'll select that rectangle and type return, and you'll see now I've got a surface. And now my box is composed of two parts. It's got the sides and it's got the bottom. So again, it's probably a good idea to make these a group. I'll select them both, type group, and there you have it. So that's method 2. I'm going to delete that. Oops. Erase it. Escape. Erase. Oops, there's my rectangle. Get rid of that too. Erase. Okay, so let's look at a third way to do it, and it's going to be similar to the first one in that we're going to start out with the rectangle tool to create the outline of the bottom, but I'm going to use a little different method for creating the sides. So first let's make our bottom. And again, I should probably point out here, you can always change the shape of the rectangle the same way we changed the cube originally. You can just click on it and grab the handles here on the edges, and you can make it longer or narrower, and depending upon which size you want. So anyway, there's my edge. So the next thing I'm going to do is put a line representing a cross section. And I actually want to just start here in the middle of the edge, or one of the sides. And that'll be easiest if I turn on some of the snap functions here. So I'm going to come down here to my settings. I'll right click on this and go to settings. And let's go to object snap, and I'm going to set, I want it to turn endpoint and midpoint and object snap. And make sure I click OK, which is probably off the screen for you. Okay, now I'll get my 3D polyline tool. I'm going to come in here, find this midpoint of that line, and just come up here, some arbitrary distance. And then I'm also going to come off along the y-axis at some arbitrary distance here to put an edge on that. Type return. So now I've got an outline at the bottom, and I've got a line representing the cross section at the top. So in this case, I'm going to use the sweep tool to create my edge. So I'm going to type sweep. And I'm going to select my cross section as the object I want to sweep. Return. I'm going to select the rectangle as the path I want to do. And as soon as I do that, you can see I get my sides. Now I've got that line there that I used to create the edge of my cross section. So let's get rid of that. And that can be a little tricky. Let's just click on that. Let's try it up here. It's a little better. Easier. There we go. And I'll type E for erase. I don't need that anymore. And I'll just zoom out. And again, I could grab these edges and I could change the width or the depth of this object. Again, I remind you that the bottom is a separate object, or the rectangle representing the bottom. So if you want to have a bottom that that fits the sides, you have to make sure you drag them together. So let me undo this, and I'll get both of these together. Okay, and now if I zoom in on this, this out here and we'll make this a longer box like that. Hit escape, and now you can see I've got the sides and the rectangle. Let's convert that rectangle on the bottom to a surface, and it'll be use the convert to surface tool. And I'll come in here and very carefully click on that rectangle, type return, and there you have it. I will make this a group. Select my bottom and the edge there and the sides, and I'll type return, and now I've got my box as an open box with an edge on it. And if you want to be fancy about it, you could put fillets in here. You could either make the fillet before you did the sweep, just using the fillet tool, or you could do the surface fillet tool and put in fillets in around the perimeter of the top or in these inner edges if you wanted to.